Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to Trans India Real People, Real Emotions. This week, we continue our story on hydraulic trailer operators in India and talk to the chairman and other office bearers of Hydraulic Trailer Owners Association. Just to remind you, HTOA completed 15 years earlier this month and organized a very professionally managed and disciplined event in New Delhi, which was attended by members of HTOA, their suppliers and vendors. And of course, the chief guest was Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways. This week we will know more about HTOA from its chairman, Mr. Jignesh Patel, and also talk to Mr. Zerksis Parabia, who has been an office bearer of HTOA. Also, we talk to the next gen of the hydraulic business and also possibly the future of HTOA, Mr. Shrenik Kataria. But before that, let's take a quick look at what Zerksis has to say about buying a truck or giving a truck to somebody. This is interesting.
As my dad says in very simple language, कि अगर किसी को बहुत नींद आती है तो उसको एक ट्रक दिला दो. He will never sleep.
Absolutely. However crude this may sound, but this has been a saying for a very long time that if you want to get even with someone, buy him a truck. While some people may realize that it would not be a good idea to spend rupees 50 lakh on an enemy, given the current prices of trucks, just to give him sleepless nights, but it is quite ironic that despite all the talk about hardships, lack of profitability and even lack of respect, truck sales are climbing at a good pace. There are still some segments that are performing better than the rest, and of course there is a replacement cycle that also contributes to truck sales. Let's take a look at how the commercial vehicle segment performed according to the numbers released by Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. Vehicle sales data and our interview with HTOA officials on the other side of this very short break. I am Girish Michandani and you are watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन!
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन!
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Welcome back, friends, to Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. In this segment, we take a look at the quarterly sales of commercial vehicle manufacturers. During the period April to June 2022, the sales of medium and heavy commercial vehicles stood at 75,685 vehicles, out of which 67,978 vehicles were in the goods segment. The LCV segment collectively sold 1,48,827 vehicles, out of which 1,37,237 vehicles were specifically in the goods carrier segment. Let's take a quick look at how the commercial vehicle manufacturers did in this quarter in different segments. Ashok Leyland collectively sold 37,124 vehicles. Force Motors stood at 3,614 vehicles. Isuzu Motors stood at 485. Mahindra & Mahindra sold 58,982 commercial vehicles. Maruti Suzuki sold 10,817 vehicles. SML Isuzu sales stood at 3,443 vehicles. Tata Motors, the market leader, sold 93,888 vehicles. And Volvo Eicher sold 15,383 vehicles in the quarter April to June 2022. Breaking this up further, in the M&HCV segment, specifically in the goods carrier segment, Ashok Leyland sold 21,147 vehicles, Mahindra sales stood at 1,286 vehicles, Tata Motors sold 35,241 vehicles, and Volvo Eicher sold 9,355 vehicles. The total sales of goods carriers in the M&HCV segment was 67,978 vehicles. In the LCV segment, Ashok Leyland sold 14,209 vehicles, Mahindra & Mahindra sold 57,509 vehicles, Maruti Suzuki sold 10,817 vehicles, Tata Motors sold 50,825 vehicles, and VECV Eicher sold 2,198 vehicles taking the total tally of goods carriers in the LCV segment to 1,37,237 vehicles. Well friends, there is no doubt that despite all the challenges, all the hardships, road transport is an exciting business and a profitable one too. In fact, we were very surprised when we met a young transporter and he said that trucking was a profitable business. While many people in the industry would tend to disagree with that because of the growing competition, but yet companies are doing good for themselves. We can only hope that in the times to come, the industry will get together and form policies that would help it and that would safeguard it against competition. Well friends, coming up after this very short break, our interaction with the chairman and office bearers of Hydraulic Trailer Owners Association. Stay tuned and keep watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन।
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे। चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
Welcome back friends to Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. We are in conversation today with the office bearers of Hydraulic Trailer Owners Association, and with us first is Mr. Jignesh Patel, the chairman of HTOA, and Mr. Zerksis Parabia, who has been an office bearer. So Jignesh, tell us a bit about HTOA. When was this established and what was the thought process behind starting this association?
The association started in the year 2007, and that time it were very few hydraulic trailer operators across the country, and primarily very scattered in the predominantly in the western zone, but they were very scattered, and there were no regulatory norms, procedures or process for any permissions or ODC. It was mainly by a hand-picked few operators who were operating based on their knowledge, experience and the domain understanding and the way they thought it would be a right way of doing an ODC transport or an overweight transport. Naturally, progressively, the country had requirements for a higher capacity of cargo, project cargo to be moved, and there came the need of interacting with government and discussing and finding a mechanism to define a broad parameters for bringing a permission kind of definition in the process.
Zerksis, being a member of HTOA for a long time, tell us, has HTOA been useful for the members and what are the typical challenges that hydraulic operators face?
Well, at the moment, we are right now after the inception of the permission and the HTOA is formed. We've been closely working with the ministry for especially permissions. Now the ODC permissions are generated online now. That is the biggest challenge which we had earlier, which we were facing, and now it is a one-stop solution, kind of a blanket permission, where we can transport heavy and ODC cargo. That is the biggest advantage we have with the permission. Yeah, there are challenges for moving on the road. We have issues with the bridges. We have issues with overhead wires. We have there are many issues when we cross the toll, because there are service lanes, but as you see, we are into the specialized transport. We move heavy, overweight and over-dimensional cargo. So many a times we make our own bypasses when we want to, when we cannot, if the bridge is not able to withstand the load.
Jignesh, prior to the online regime, what was the typical procedure for movement of ODC or project cargo?
For getting a permission from government, you got to apply at least 5 to 6 months in advance for larger cargos, and thereafter they had a very manual way of processing your permission and examining the details about it. And also ministry was not aware about the concept of project cargo and the need of the country for importance of moving such cargo for various projects.
What is the maximum weight that can be moved by hydraulic axles? Just to get a sense of the operations.
Say on Indian road condition with the permission process which is well defined under the portal, you are talking of under the girder bridge combination a tonnage of up to 300 tons. However, for special cases, for refinery projects and power plants and etc., the cargoes are growing bigger by the day, and if the records are right, presently up to 1100 ton cargo have been moved or are in transition for big refinery projects.
Zerksis, you have been in this business for how long, and what's the background of your company?
Well, my company was started in 1971. I'm the second generation. So I have been in the business since the last 25 years.
Was getting into this business your first choice?
Oh, yes, actually, as I told you, I'm the second generation. My father started it, and and as for our Indian culture, I mean, it's the legacy which you have to continue.
So it was by force in a way?
Yeah.
Or rather by default, I would say, not force.
Well, I did not have a choice.
So, Zerksis, you are almost a veteran in this trade by now. What differences do you see in the business between when you joined and today?
Oh, things have changed drastically. We've got better equipments. We've got better technology. We've got better. I mean, after the import policy being opened up and the foreign direct investments coming up, we've got better equipments, better services. Like we've got hydraulic trailers being manufactured here. The imports are clear now. We've got more of pullers. As Jignesh mentioned, the hydraulic trailer. I mean, the girder bridge, which is a very important factor for movement of a heavy cargo which is compact in size. Right. So there is a huge difference, and then again, movement is become much easier. The roads are much better. I mean, with the Indian government taking the initiative, the roads are far better than what we had 25 years back.
Jignesh, while we are seeing a lot of focus on expressways and four-laning of national highways, how is the scenario when it comes to arterial roads or bridges, which again are so critical for ODC movement?
Usually, you have very less number of bridges on the inner roads, unless there is a project which is made in a quite extreme area other than from the highway. Usually, whenever the projects are being planned, doesn't have so many bridges in the last leg connectivity. So, but having said so, the credit goes to the present government who has done a phenomenal job in the road infrastructure development. And progressively, I think one thing which is recognizing and well recognized across the industry is excellent infrastructure being built up. And India, I think in the coming years, would be a nation to look in for infrastructure, and I think the Honorable Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari has been a driving force for this matter.
The online portal for ODC movement has been a landmark achievement. How much was HTOA involved in making this achievement possible?
I think that's a very long journey. It's a very good question also. Say when we started from it, there was no parameters that what should be permitted, under what category, under what tonnage, and what should be there. So that's how when we interacted with the ministry, the first concept said that okay, you are saying a particular cargo is permissible on this, but who will recognize that? So we had as an HTO in consultation with a very leading consulting firm, Mr. Tandon, Mr. Bhomik, and for TBA, we engaged with the due coordination with the ministry, and we got them appointed for doing a complete study on the available infrastructure in the country and the various categories of bridge available in India. So basis that study and the report generated by the honorable consultants, we came into a discussion with ministry based on that report and the data and the parameters that a particular tonnage on a particular size of a bridge would be fair to say permissible. And thereafter ministry worked and had a lot of consultation within their group their NHI department, Indian Road Congress, and whatever various consulting things. And then the process and the restrictions were defined on. Okay, this is the cargo and these are the tonnage combinations, and whatever the restrictions are, you will be having to follow that, and by that the permission process was evolved.
So Jignesh, the online
pre and post the portal coming up, can you give us a sense of what has changed?
The system?
The biggest change is the visibility of permission being, today at the time of an application that you are falling within the parameter or not. Secondly, tonnages up to say HT1 and 2 and 3, that is 8 axle modular trailer, comprising of approximately 110 ton to 120 ton. Real-time permission is being issued at a button, click of a button, which is absolutely a transformational change in the country. Secondly, which permissions were not taken for movements, people have come into the system and are coming forward for taking and wanting a permission process to be done for.
Well, with project movement gaining a lot of momentum, lot of developments, lot of volumes happening in this space now, there would be a need for qualified and trained manpower considering the complex operations. How do you source and train this manpower?
Well, I mean, there is no institute for training of these manpower, but they are basically, the manpower are the people who are working with us for a long time, and they are trained by the manufacturer. Also, we have a training wing where we train operators, drivers, and it comes on primarily, in the right direction.
It's more of a hands-on training.
It's more of a hands-on training, but now with the systems and the computers, the technology and with the programs, there are stimulators which are used, and yeah.
Is there a shortage of qualified manpower?
Yes, we do. Yes.
So Jignesh, is HTOA doing anything to tackle this issue?
Yeah, I think collectively among ourselves, all leading players, we are working closely with the government for skill development and enhancing that training process. So biggest thing we need to all work together as an industry as well as government is evolving a system for more awareness and more learning process, and the ease of making that process penetrated to the last mile, because that's how a non-qualified person can also have an opportunity. But naturally for project cargo, a larger project cargo, experience is a criteria, so that cannot be formed overnight. But this is the progress, and that's, I think, the steps are taken in that direction.
Well, as we described earlier, project movement or ODC movement is a mammoth task. There's so much involved, not just, picking the project cargo from one place and just putting it to the other. There's so much happening en route as well. And also, the value of the cargo runs into crores of rupees. What's the kind of stress level that you face?
There is too much of pressure when you're moving a cargo, and especially when you're moving a cargo in a time-bound schedule where you have penalties, where you have your client completely on you, where the pressure is because the equipment is moving on the road. There can be a mechanical failure, there can be an accident on the road, there can be anything. So the stress is too much, and I think this stress is passed on to everyone in the organization, and everyone, all my friends, my competitors, everyone would agree. As my dad says in very simple language, कि अगर किसी को बहुत नींद आती है तो उसको एक ट्रक दिला दो. He will never sleep.
Absolutely.
Well friends, that was our interaction with Jignesh and Zerksis, knowing about how complicated the hydraulic movement business is. Joining us after this very short break will be Shrenik Kataria, while Jignesh Patel stays on. We request you to stay on as well. See you on the other side of this break. You are watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. Welcome back viewers to Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. And a warm welcome to Shrenik as well. So Shrenik, tell us a bit about your company, and since when are you in business? Also, how important is it being part of HTOA?
So I belong to a company called Kataria Transport Service. This is the third generation. I'm third generation into this business. So it was started by my grandfather in the year 1969, and now we're the third generation coming into the business. And it's immense of learning. I mean, with sitting with the stalwarts of the industry, and it's really good to be part of this association also for me. For me, it's an amazing learning experience. I mean, the kind of knowledge I get from even just by attending the meetings, I don't even hardly speak, but the kind of knowledge I get from them, it's immense. I can't even express the kind of, the knowledge that I'm getting from these people and how I'm going to put it forward. It's going to be a good learning future also for me. Yeah.
Somehow, Shrenik, I am always curious to know if transportation has been the first choice of work for youngsters, and you happen to be the third generation. Was this your choice by default, or you really wanted to be in this business?
For me, yes. I have a second line of business, which is a dealership for Maruti Suzuki, but I didn't want to get into it. I wanted to stay in this business only. I don't know. It's either in the blood. It's either in the blood. I don't know. It must be in the blood. But I genuinely wanted to come back into this business. I joined the dealership. I took care of it for about 3-4 years. Then my younger brother came forward. He started taking care of it, and I came back into this business.
Shrenik, what are the typical challenges that you face?
I think the biggest challenge as an industry that we face right now is the manpower. I think manpower is becoming a big hassle for all of us, especially the drivers, the crew. The skilled manpower is becoming a big challenge for us. We need to really, get our heads together and work on how do we get this thing in line. As far as the online portals, as far as the other issues with the government policies are being concerned, the association as a whole is, taking all the right steps to get that in place. But the biggest challenge right now is the manpower. That is going to be a tough challenge for us to face in the coming future.
Jignesh, coming back to the issue of skilled manpower, how is HTOA going to deal with this?
I think what we have to do is, first and foremost, is we'll have to create a resource pool at a various level in region wise and motivate them to join the trade and join this fraternity, because presently it is very easy for them in the there are a lot of equipments are being sold, but at the same time the progression for arranging or evolving the skilled manpower is relatively slow. So there is definitely a mismatch, but it is a collective effort. Everybody has to do it, and from each company, each large small company have to invest time, resource and people, and with the skill training for a particular period and a small devised courses, practical experience as well as the technical experience, and then progress forward for it. It's not an overnight journey, and what Shrenik said, everybody knows in the industry, it is one of the biggest challenge for the times to come.
So does HTOA have a plan to tackle this issue?
We are working with government with different options and models, and I think in a short period we will be having a complete detailing plan worked out for that.
Shrenik, having been in this business for almost a decade now, how challenging do you find this?
I think each and every consignment that you handle, as even Zerksis Bhai said, or even Nilesh ji said, it's sleepless night, even if a small consignment is on the road, or even if a large consignment is on the road. It's a challenge every day, every hour is a challenge. You never know what is going to happen. As we speak also, challenges can keep coming up. So it's a challenge throughout the process, and but it's a healthy. I'm glad to be part of it. I would love to face these kind of challenges. It's nice to be facing these kind of challenges, and with the hand holding that I'm getting from the seniors, it makes life very easy for us.
But has life become easier for you with development happening all around?
I think the biggest difference, as Nilesh Bhai also said, Jignesh Bhai also said, is regarding the online permissions. I think that has made life very easy. I mean, earlier it used to take, as he said, 5 to 6 months you had to apply in advance. Even after applying, there was a lot of it was a very lengthy process, which has been streamlined now, which has come down drastically, and it has made life very easy. The entire process, it can be done by anybody now. It's so simple. It is just on the click of the button on the computers, you can get the permissions out. It's become very easy and very systematic. And obviously HTOA as an association for us as a young generation, it's been 15 years for them, but for the last 10 years there's been a lot of learning for us from them, and which has helped make life very easy for us.
Jignesh, is there a roadmap to pass on more knowledge to the youth and groom them to be part of HTOA's working mechanism?
What we have done as an initiative is we are trying to devise a standard operating process and also standard working conditions. So safety parameters are being considered. So more from the day a customer sends a request to right till the end of the execution, what are the checklist and what are the processes needs to be followed, and across the members we want that education to go and they get more awareness about the steps to be followed, and I think therein their process would be more well structured, and that will be encouraging the younger generations to join in and put an additional thrust towards the growth.
There's a general consensus that making this business more systematic is the way forward. Any steps you are taking in your business towards this goal?
I think the motivation for the training process for the drivers is one step that we are working on. With the kind of experience, we are giving them different categories. We are motivating them, whether it's financially or otherwise, so that they can go up to the next category. Motivating the other supervisors and the crew. That is the efforts that we are putting at our end. So to ensure that we have a smoother process way forward.
Finally, Jignesh, what are the future plans of HTOA from here on?
Say first, our next goal would be what I rightly said, so is bringing more awareness amongst the fraternity members about the safety parameters to be followed for any ODC movement, and also interacting more with the government for the forthcoming projects. The equipment demand is going to be larger by all large projects for the country to come, and for Atmanirbhar project to be get successful of the vision of Honorable Narendra Modi ji, our Prime Minister. The larger equipments are going to be manufactured. So how compliant and how geared up are the fraternity and the trade to move and take up those challenges? I think that is one of the major things. And what you rightly asked earlier also, bringing more skilled, trained manpower for achieving that. Because we might have, buying an equipment is one part of it, but we need qualified people to run the complete show.
Well friends, that was our interaction with the office bearers of Hydraulic Trailer Owners Association. We are sure that HTO will continue its efforts in interacting with the government and engaging with them to bring in more ease of business. We will be back with you next week with another very exciting interview. Until next week, stay safe. Jai Hind. Good morning.